power is fleeting. Even the mightiest symbols of authority return to the earth from which they came. For years he had walked these halls, a silent sentinel guarding secrets whispered only to the stone. From the depths, the world fractured, a testament to the planet's raw power, reshaping the very foundations of existence. Here they lie, the forgotten instruments of a forgotten conflict. The mud claims them now, just as it claimed the men who wielded them. Exhaustion clung to him like the fog on the battlefield. Another day survived, another memory etched into his weary soul. Empires rise and fall not by steel, but by the lines drawn on parchment. And now, those lines begin to bleed. In the quiet mist of the colonial harbor, the great vessels of the British fleet lay waiting, symbols of an empire stretching across the globe. And as he read the prophecy, he understood the gravity of their situation. The past was prologue to the coming storm. In a world of fleeting digital noise, the pen remains the enduring instrument of history. The white flag hung heavy, a stark silhouette against the dying light. Another day ended, and with it, all here, in the quiet embrace of the dawn, the mountains stand sentinel over a world just beginning to breathe. Within this chest lies the true legacy. More valuable than mere gold are the stories etched into these pages, sealed by time itself.
The weight of the colony's debts fell squarely upon his shoulders. So many bills, so little coin.
Sentinel of the high pass, the fortress watched silently as the storm clouds gathered over the shadowed peaks.
He carried the weight of his ancestors in his gaze, an unbroken spirit sustained by the old ways.
In a flash, the powder ignites, a simple mechanism that changed the face of warfare and sealed the fate of empires.
For generations, we have stood as guardians of this forest. The mist carries the whispers of our ancestors.
Here stood the final barrier between the light and the shadow. Now, only the embers whisper their fate to the wind. The first drop falls not by chance, but by design. A sacred crimson stain on the purity of the stone. Here, at the edge of the known world, they carved out an existence, fueled by fire and an unyielding hope. In the quiet safety of the hollow, they found a momentary refuge from the encroaching darkness of the world outside. Within these pages lies the truth, undisturbed for generations, now brought to light by the turning tides of time.
The mist holds secrets, shrouding the past and the future. We wait in the silence. He knew this night would come. The shadows held their breath, waiting for the signal only he could give.
The Yonge broadsheet, printed on this day in 1749, capturing the echoes of a distant world in fresh ink. For centuries, this solitary structure has stood as a silent testament to faith, weathering the storms of time amidst the endless green. In the silence of the great stone halls, the weight of his vows was heavy. He sought guidance, but only echoes answered his silent prayers. The light may shift, and the world may change around it, but the covenant it represents remains eternal. With each measured step, they claimed this vast, untamed land, their spirits fueled by the promise of the setting sun and a future yet unwritten. The true value lies not just in the material, but in the way the light dances across its surface. A legacy captured in silk. The weight of progress is measured not in lightness, but in the grit and resistance overcome with every agonizing inch. Here, the earth yields its bounty, shaped by the relentless sun and the passage of time.
He had stood against the tide for decades. But time, like the approaching storm, yields to no man.
Here, in the quiet darkness of the barn, the sacred leaf begins its transformation, a journey from vibrant green life to aged perfection. Here, the meticulous order of the fields meets the quiet grandeur of the ancestral home, bathed in the evening's golden light.
The fog rolled in, blurring the lines between past and future, between memory and regret. Crafted by hands long forgotten, this wool tells a story of warmth and resilience.
In the quiet space between breaths, the weight of the past settled upon him. These streets held secrets he was only beginning to uncover. They thought him broken, yet here he remained, a defiant ember in the encroaching darkness, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. By royal decree of His Majesty King Theron, let it be known throughout the kingdom that these new laws are now in effect.
The weight of the coming decision rested heavily upon him. He knew that modernization, while necessary, would not be swift, nor would it be unopposed. The weight of the empire rested on his shoulders. These maps held not just geography, but destiny itself.
Within these pages lies the true history of the family fortune, recorded meticulously, day by silent day. In the suffocating embrace of the night mist, truths are obscured, and only echoes remain.
The fog rolled in like a shroud, hiding the dangers that lurked just beyond the harbor. Still,
with this firm impression, the decree is finalized, taking permanent effect on this day.
Millennia of decrees and doctrines, stacked high, awaiting the judgment of history.
he read the decree, his fury simmering beneath the surface. The injustice of it threatened to consume him whole.
From these flames, the old order crumbles. What remains is the inescapable truth found in the embers.
Here, amidst the dust and the fury of the storm, one man made his final stand for liberty.
He stood firm, his fist against the wood, a testament to the resolve that had brought them to this critical juncture. In the heart of the machine lies the dormant power of creation. These gears, though still, hold the weight of history. In this whole, the weight of their actions would finally be measured. Judgment was at hand. He knew this was the moment everything would change. His conviction absolute, his resolve unbreakable. They would hear the truth. These silver coins have witnessed centuries of trade, their worn surfaces telling tales of fortunes won and lost across the ages. The rain fell much the same way 2 centuries ago, washing the cobblestones clean of the day's commerce. He stared not at the bowl itself, but through it, remembering a time when it was full and the laughter echoed in these quiet rooms. The flow begins, irreversible and profound, carrying the weight of history and the promise of new ideas yet unwritten.
In this hallowed chamber, the fate of the nation rests upon our shoulders.
He stood unmoved, a monument to the principles he swore to uphold, even as the shadows lengthened around him.
This hallowed parchment, signed by giants, represents the enduring will of a free people.
He knew the risks, yet he would not yield. The weight of history rested on his shoulders that day. He knew this moment would define their future. The weight of the assembly rested solely on his shoulders, and he would not yield.
In the hallowed halls of power, true strength is often found not in fiery speeches, but in silent, unwavering determination. He sat motionless, a statue amidst the dust of ages, contemplating the fragile nature of democracy itself. In the silence of the great chamber, the true measure of a man is not found in the noise he makes, but in the stillness he commands. In the quiet moments before the storm, he sought the strength to face what destiny demanded of him. For centuries, this tree has stood witness to the turning of the ages, a silent sentinel over the cobblestone streets.
And so he dangles, a silent sentinel of the harvest, swaying gently between the earth and the encroaching darkness.
And so it falls. The weight of the evidence could no longer be contained within these walls, now laid bare upon the floor.
He stood resolute, a sentinel against the encroaching darkness, waiting for a command that might never come.
The weight of history turns to smoke. As these seals burn away, so too does the past they represent.
It was a time of uncertainty, when the fate of nations rested upon the shoulders of a few reluctant men.
The weight of the words pressed upon him, a legacy waiting to be etched into history. He hesitated, knowing this moment would define their future.
This ancient iron lock has stood guard for centuries, keeping safe the secrets held within these walls. In the deserted London docks, the merchant fleet waited. Thick fog drifted across the calm sea, muffling the world as the ships rocked gently with the tide.
Here, in this hallowed hall, they began the arduous task of forming a more perfect union, a testament to their enduring vision.
This document, the formal repeal of the Stamp Act, marked a pivotal moment on the path toward revolution and independence.
On this night, beneath the smoke and sparks, a new chapter began. The old world was gone, and they were the architects of the new.
The Declaratory Act, a mandate that stripped away their freedoms, leaving only the perilous path toward independence.
For centuries, it has remained undisturbed, holding secrets best left buried.
Through the churning swells and towering storms, the British cargo fleet maintained its course toward the New World. He had carried the weight of that day for 20 years. Now, staring at the glass that reflected his failure, the resentment felt fresh again. Porcelain, gilt in gold, yet susceptible to the inevitable forces of time and gravity. It rests now, a monument to a moment past. The winter of 1788 brought an unbearable silence to the cobbled streets. Yet, in their stillness, these men carried the storm. In the shadow of the gallows, true courage is often found not in the sword, but in the stillness of a defiant heart. The lines drawn on this parchment were not merely geographical. They represented a deep, irreconcilable schism within the colonies. One sought power, the other redemption. But in the flickering light of the chamber, their intentions remained shrouded in darkness. Legend spoke of this place in hushed tones, but only the map, now illuminated by the candle's flame, revealed the truth they so desperately sought.
He knew then that destiny was not merely found in the stars, but forged in the quiet certainty of his own conviction.
His lineage stretched back 1,000 years, and with every step on the frozen stones, he honored that legacy.
Lord Ashworth stood unwavering. For generations, his family had guarded the northern pass. This night would be no different. Polished leather and cold steel, symbols of unwavering resolve. With each deliberate step, the old world yielded to the new. The snow fell softly, masking the tension of the moment. A single breath could shatter the fragile peace and unleash the coming storm. Far from home, the biting cold was as much an enemy as the rebels hiding in the shadows of Boston.
In the silence of the frost-bitten night, the musket trembled, anticipating the dawn's first volley.
And so it was that the old world vanished in a flash of blinding light and smoke, leaving only whispers on the wind. In the annals of the Revolution, the names of these patriots may be lost, but their final breath secured a future they would never see. Herein lies the memory of King Street, rendered in metal and ink. The fateful clash that set the colonies on an irreversible course. In the quiet hours before dawn, the fleet advanced silently through the fog, a testament to their unwavering resolve.
The parchment held the truth he had sought for decades, but the implications were staggering.
Without the rule of law, there is only chaos. It is the solemn promise that all are equal. He was the embodiment of the crown's justice, resolute and unmoved, a silent sentinel in the theater of law.
The hour had come, and though the world held its breath, the general remained unmoved, his resolve unbroken.
And so the infusion begins. A solitary leaf, awakening in the warmth, releases its essence into the tranquil waters. The journey was perilous, shrouded in a fog that seemed to cling to the very souls of the men who rode towards their fate. Defiance burned brightly in his eyes that night, a fire that would soon engulf the old world and forge the new. In the year 1772, the HMS Gaspee became a symbol of defiance. Its destruction ignited the flames of revolution. Herein lies the wealth of nations, yet these spices and silks are worthless now, relics of a bygone era.
He knew that true courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the mastery of it.
The Tea Act of 1773 was Parliament's fourth attempt to prop up the struggling East India Company, a move that would ignite the flames of rebellion.
Here, amidst the churning titans of the deep, the merchant vessel fought for every splinter of its life against the crushing waves. The mist hung heavy over the harbor, mirroring the unresolved tension between the defiant civilian and the decorated officer. A storm was coming. They sought his mercy, but found only the glacial stare of a monarch whose patience had long since worn thin. The great ships waited in silence, shrouded in the silver mist of the moonlit bay. Their long journey was...
Some stains cannot be washed away by water or fire. They reside deeper, etched into the soul itself.
The strike revealed not wood, but the precious cargo hidden within, a treasure now illuminated by the moon's cold gaze. And in that moment, time stood still. The precious cargo, suspended between the deck and the unforgiving water, marked the leaves drift upon the waters, remnants of a forgotten time, carried by currents under the silent gaze of the moon.
The words on the page confirmed his darkest fears. The betrayal was complete. A cold fury settled in his heart.
Under the pale moonlight, the great ships of the line held steady against the relentless tide. The tide would soon turn, and with it, the fate of the colonies. He stood ready.
And so the passage is sealed. What the mist obscures, the lock preserves. We stand now at the threshold of memory and shadow. This is the untamed forest frontier, a land untouched by man, ruled only by the wind and the cold. The harvest is safely gathered in, a promise of sustenance through the coming winter months. He stood resolute, a silent sentinel in the shadowed halls of power, waiting for the inevitable dawn.
In the stillness of the chamber, they awaited their fate. The shadow of their choices loomed large over them both.
And with this final stroke of the quill, the Declaration of Rights was sealed, securing the blessings of liberty for generations to come.
Under the gray skies of that fateful morning, these men gathered, their quiet determination shaping the destiny of a continent. The air hung still, heavy with the dust of ages. Soon this quiet resolve would be tested. Behold the substance that changed the world. A simple mixture, yet its potential is absolute.
He stood resolute, a crimson beacon against the dust. His expression gave no quarter, reflecting the iron will that had brought them to this precipice.
For 40 years he had guarded this vantage. But the smoke rising over the northern keep signaled an end to their vigilance.
By royal decree, the colony of Massachusetts is hereby declared in open rebellion.
The air hung heavy with expectation. Soon, the echoes of his words would either condemn him or set a continent free.
And so it was, in the twilight of the old era, that destiny called upon those few who dared to answer with unwavering conviction.
Inside this envelope lies the fate of the resistance. Its contents must remain sealed until the time is right. And so they set out into the mist, guided only by the pale light of the moon and the promise of a new dawn. The covenant was clear. He must reach the northern watch before dawn, lest all be lost to the shadows.
For centuries, this voice has marked the sacred and the profane. It is the sound of consequence, ringing across the ages.
As the golden mist rose, they stood as one, ready to defend the dawn of a new nation. Dawn broke over the mist-shrouded fields, bringing with it the inevitable moment of truth. His resolve was the only warmth in the cold morning air.
In this singular moment, time itself holds its breath, waiting for the inevitable release.
In the dawn's early light, the echoes of the volley fade, leaving only this stark white cloud suspended over the hallowed ground. The sounds of battle faded, leaving only the wind to mourn his sacrifice. Worn by revolution, discarded by time, the fabric holds the memory of battles fought and freedom won.
With every rhythmic step, the column advanced, an unwavering force moving towards its destiny in the new world.
They stood ready, unaware that the hours ahead would decide the fate of a continent. The wind carried whispers of the battle to come. As the sun rises over the quiet rooftops, the smoke begins its journey skyward, carrying the remnants of the night's fire. With resolute hearts and unwavering stride, they descended from the hills, ready to forge a new nation. He stood resolute against the tide, a sentinel of the empire's will. The roar of the water was answered by the crack of his flintlock.
The ground offered no mercy, pulling him into the cold embrace of history. It was here his journey ended.
And so they marched, these red-coated specters, through sun-dappled silence towards a fate unknown.
Patience was a virtue he rarely possessed, yet here he remained, a sentinel against the coming darkness. He knew the path ahead was fraught with peril, yet his resolve remained unshaken.
Here, amidst the mud and smoke, lies the true history of the conflict, etched into the faces of the fallen and the discarded tools of war.
In the quiet before the storm, the general stood resolute, preparing for the inevitable conflict.
In the silence of his solitude, he contemplated the burden of his immortality, the countless lives he had witnessed fade to dust.
For centuries, the fires have burned, a testament to resilience, a beacon in the darkness. Here, within these walls, the very foundation of our society is tested. It is a burden few men can truly bear.
Fresh from the press, these shillings would soon finance a revolution, a tangible representation of continental faith and future independence.
It was here, in this hallowed hall, that the fate of a nascent republic would be decided. The silence hung heavy with expectation.
In this hallowed hall, the weight of their decisions settled upon him, a burden accepted in silence and solemnity.
As the sun rose over the peninsula that fateful morning, the battle for Breed's Hill commenced, forever changing the course of the revolution.
In the shadow of the moon, they raised these walls, not of stone, but of sweat and earth, awaiting the dawn. He watched the horizon, a silent sentinel guarding the gateway to the empire. The morning mist held both promise and peril. They stand as silent sentinels, marking the path of those who served. Though the march is paused, the legacy endures in polished steel and leather. From these earthen walls, they held the line, unleashing a torrent of lead and fire upon the advancing enemy. And when the smoke cleared, only the wind remained to mourn the brave souls who sleep here now, their duty done. Beneath the swirling smoke of battle, the soldier stood resolute, his blade a gleaming promise in the heart of the crimson line. In this profound stillness, the gaunt features of the soldier finally found peace. Death arrived not as an end, but a quiet release. The mist hung heavy that morning, mirroring the uncertainty in the air. Yet, they pressed onward, their resolve unbroken. Forged in fire and steeped in history, these iron giants stand silent vigil over the stone ramparts. The petition, an offer of peace, was met with aristocratic disdain. In this deliberate tear, the die was cast.
They endured the cold, the hunger, and the mud. Yet, in his eyes, they saw not despair, but the
inoculation, a perilous gift of science, demanded a steady hand and an unflinching mind.
In the year 1775, Governor Lord Dunmore issued a decree that would forever alter the course of the revolution. The bombardment began at nightfall, a relentless barrage signaling the fate of the city. The flames reached towards the heavens. They called it the Dragon's Tooth, an instrument of war meant to tear down the mightiest walls. But first, it had to cross the frozen river. The weight of the journey pressed down, yet they moved onward. Step by deliberate step, the runners carved a path through the deep, silent snow. As the sun rises over the frozen harbor, the fleet remains unaware of the silent iron giants watching from the heights.
On the eve of battle, the wind carried the scent of salt and gunpowder. They knew this voyage would be their last great trial. He carries the weight of 100 voyages in his gaze, searching the distance for what was lost and what remains.
The bombardment tested the resolve of the defenders, yet the palmetto walls held firm against the iron onslaught. Common Sense, a simple title, yet within its pages lay a fire that would ignite a nation and redefine the meaning of freedom. These words, penned in Philadelphia, would echo through the ages, defining the aspiration of a new nation.
They stood in silent testimony, bearing witness to a truth far greater than themselves.
He strained against the weight of history, determined to bring down the symbols of the past, no matter the cost. Behold the essence of creation, flowing river of light. It is through fire that we find our true form, a journey from chaos to order. Majestic and unhurried, these wooden behemoths navigated the treacherous swells, symbols of an empire shrouded in the mists of time.
Duty bound them to this place. A silent vigil kept in the shadow of the coming conflict. They would not falter. He carried the weight of every fallen soldier, every shattered hope. The cost of command was measured not in...
Here, in the quiet embrace of the mist, the world slows. The wooden hulls whisper secrets to the passing current. The city had stood for 1,000 years, a beacon of civilization. Now, in a single night, it was reduced to ash and memory.
Here, in the grip of the frozen world, he waited. A silent sentinel against the coming darkness.
The year is 1775. As dawn breaks over these quiet streets, the chill of winter holds the promise of revolution.